Welcome to the Create Your Happy podcast, where conscious female creators come together with a shared vision to inspire and empower women as they learn how to fully embrace their humanness, find their unique voice, and collaborate on how together we can change the world. I'm your host, Christy Holt, happiness coach and conscious funpreneur on a mission to change the world one beautiful soul at a time. All right, gorgeous, it's time to get curious and become inspired. It's time to create your happy. Welcome to the show. On today's episode, we have the beautiful Katie Streitz. And Katie is an energy reader, healer, and quantum success coach who loves to help people choose to live the best of themselves. Currently, Katie runs her online company, Katie Awake Online, which serves spiritual entrepreneurs to succeed by being fully themselves. Her main areas of expertise are inner energetic sovereignty and soulful wealth. And I absolutely can't wait to dive into these topics today because truly, don't we all want just a little bit more wealth in our lives? So welcome to the show, Katie. I'm so excited you are here. I would love to kick this off by having you share a little bit more about who you are, where you got your start, and what transformations or life situations and overcoming stories you have to share that brought you to this place where you are today.
Incredible. Well, Christy, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to have met you and to be on your podcast. Huge congratulations on your podcast as well.
Thank you.
Really amazing energy. So my business journey started in 2013. I'd actually taught yoga full time for about 10 years, and then was really drawn to, I wanted to be working deeper with my students, but I didn't know exactly what that meant. So I was just kind of following the breadcrumbs of like where I felt God, the universe leading me. And I ended up in a 2-year practitioner training program with a contemporary shamanic teacher, Suzanne Green River. So I studied with her for 2 years, like really intense study. It was 5 days a month. And throughout that program, every month we would dive into a different system of the body. So like all the systems of the physical body, the blood, bones, heart, organs, and the chakras and the energy field. So those 2 years were really like me going into deep self-study. When I came outside of all of that, which was an immense amount of like inner self-healing work, just so much. I was then learning to practice on my other students that were in the program and was starting my own business at that point as a healer. So what I love to share with people here is that my business is always an extension of my own inner journey.
Yeah.
I feel like that's when you know somebody's really real, when their outer work is really an extension of their inner work, of just who they are as a being and what they have been through in themselves and what they really love and what they love to talk about and teach about, and it just kind of like naturally bubbles out and overflows into a business. And I love to put strategy and healthy structure, and like the practical part needs to be there so that the spiritual part can land and succeed, which is basically what I do now as a quantum success coach. So to finish my story, I started those first years really focused on kind of the more esoteric levels of healing, like past life healing, multidimensional energy healing with my clients. And then I transitioned more into inner child work, helping people heal and recover anything they needed to from their childhoods, so they could really be planted in themselves and their own sovereignty, because it's really from that foundation where the soul can really come alive and the heart center opens more, which I see as like our real inner wealth and inner prosperity. And then how amazing is it to like build your relationship with money based off of that, not based off of need or scarcity or doing it the way necessarily that your parents did with money or your ancestors did with money. Like nothing wrong with that, but like, wow, let's be here now as conscious creators, as like leaders of the new earth, and creating a new conscious paradigm with money where we're in relationship with money from our soul's true wealth inside, like the true messages of our heart.
Yeah, I love that. And I really think that you are absolutely bang on when you're talking about how our journey impacts what we're doing and how we decide to give back. Because I think as a coach, it's always evolving, right? As we continue to learn and grow and expand ourselves, we have this amazing opportunity to then turn around and teach others and to help expand them as well. So I love that. So you touched on the mindset of shifting that mindset from scarcity or sort of that lack mindset into one of more abundance and wealth. And like I said, we could all probably use a little bit more wealth, more abundance, and abundance could be in anything, right? That's energy, love, peace, money, all of it, right? So let's talk a little bit about that shift and how we can start at least to make that shift from scarcity thinking to wealthful thinking.
Absolutely. So the way that I see it is our relationship with goodness, which, as you said, and I totally agree, goodness meaning resources, love, positive attention, celebration, joy, money, all of that. If we can call all of that goodness, a person will be experiencing the lack of that, or the amount of that, or the abundance of that they are accustomed to be receiving. So if a person is in a childhood environment, or I even see this in like past lifetimes when I dip in there in myself or with my clients, like if what they're accustomed to is not having their needs met or having to survive on just a little bit, or just being used to having to get by with nothing, then that's still what they will be creating in their adult life in regard to their relationship with goodness or with money or with abundance or love, or with positivity in general.
Right. And I think the ways that we were taught about money as a child play significantly into this as well, because we may hold beliefs that we don't even realize on a subconscious level. If we heard all the time, maybe over and over, money doesn't grow on trees and we don't have the money for that, we can't afford this or that, it may not even be front of mind. It may be sort of on a lower, deeper level, still holding you back as an adult because that is the undercurrent of your childhood.
Absolutely. And I think what you're speaking to is exactly why people have a particularly hard time changing their reality when it comes to money.
Yeah.
Because, like, true on the level of need of like, well, if you had to be in survival mode, then you're probably still in survival mode now. So we need to work on that level of like the person really realizing that it's safe and okay to have all your needs met and even to shift into overflow. But with what you're speaking to of the family mindset around money, or like what were those common phrases like money's the root of all evil, or
Right.
like you have to suffer to make money, or you have to like break your back in labor or earning it, that kind of thing. Like what I see is people tend to have these really, they'll be very protective around their money mindset. They'll get defensive about it. Understandably, they'll think that their money mindset or their family's money mindset is the only money mindset that's available. And sometimes, like probably not really people in our sphere, maybe not even people listening to this, but they'll become like protective or defensive of it because it's like you're touching on something sacred or a core level, or you're touching on their belief systems within the realms of their parents or their family or their ancestry. And it's like, oh, stop, we don't talk about that. Too tender.
Like triggering like the ego response, right? That automatic survival mode response of like, not safe, don't go there.
Yeah, or like something bad happens if you talk about that.
Yeah.
No, we don't care. Which is totally understandable, but it's also not true. Like, no, the money mindset that your family had or your grandparents or their parents had, that is not the ultimate reality. That is one possible mindset when it comes to money, but it's certainly not the only one. There's actually infinite ways to be in relationship with anything.
Yeah.
Money included.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I think, just as we're sort of shifting, I think too, out of like pandemic mode, right? We talk about survival mode. A lot of us have really been in this pandemic survival mode now for a couple of years. And it really can like build into like a natural pattern where you're operating on autopilot and you're actually not completely, consciously aware of the thoughts that are running in the background. So how do we bring these to the surface?
Yeah. Well, I think the pandemic probably did bring all of it to the surface for lots
Well,
of
the
people.
fears, definitely,
Yeah.
right?
Um, Fears of money running out. I mean, a lot of people did lose their businesses.
Yeah.
Um, they got triggered, and understandably so, into a survival mode, even with like a fear of lack of resources, like with grocery stores and food and
Yeah. Yeah.
money and all of that. And the economy's gone through a huge dip.
Mhm.
So I feel like, again, this could be triggering for a lot of people. For me, it's empowering because it's a choice point. Like,
Yeah.
people could ask themselves, like, do you want to continue with patterns the way they have been? If it does bring up powerlessness to the system, which in some ways we do have because it's a system that operates from outside of us, do you want to keep functioning from that state of powerlessness to a system? Or would you like to drop into your own energy, sovereignty, autonomy inside? Definitely link arms with others that are also shifting into their innate wealth, prosperity, their innate ability to make choices with how they relate with money and wealth creation. And I feel like that's something we all need to do together. I don't feel like that's something that really can be done alone, because that's the way the human energy field can create new. Or like if you want to take on a new, like in the energy world, it'd be called a morphogenetic field, which is basically the energy of a belief system. So, like, if someone wants to create new belief systems, they need to be in relationship and community with others that are also of that, like, wealth mindset they want to develop for themselves. So, yeah, I feel like coming out of the pandemic, it's a really powerful choice point of, okay, well, what do you want to make from here? What do you want to create from here? How do you want money to work for you from here? Which I know that can be a triggering question again, because people think their money mindset's an unchangeable thing, but it's actually not. Like, what if you just tapped into yourself as the actual powerful creator that you really truly are?
Right? Yeah. And I think the first kind of piece of that is maybe just what is a bit lacking. People are not getting curious enough. They are accepting these beliefs and these systems and their identity and their mindsets maybe that aren't serving them, but they're not actually taking a moment to question, hey, is this actually serving me? Is this actually getting me what I want? Is this moving me towards my higher self or my, you know, purpose in life or the dreams that I would love to be creating, right? And if we just take a moment to get a little bit more curious, we're like, okay, is this actually, should I hang on to this or should I maybe look at other alternatives? Man, that opens up all of that choice that you're talking about, and whew, make some big changes from that sort of position of choice, right?
Yeah, it's confronting, but it's all possible.
I love what you said though about it being empowering. If again, a choice to look at how you even approach it, right? Is it triggering or is it empowering? Because it could be both depending on how you perceive it. So if you go into this and you're someone out there who wants more energy, more wealth, more abundance, more happiness, whatever it is in your life, if you go into it thinking, okay, let's get curious about this. What can I shift? And instead of looking at it as negative things, you just look at it as like, if I can identify my blocks, my mindsets, my triggers, my shortcomings here, I can use that to empower myself to look at things differently. And I know that you mentioned the childhood thing. So tell me a little bit more about how looking back now as maybe as an adult, how you can identify some of those childhood things and actually make progress forward so that you can start experiencing more of the wealth and abundance that you want in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is an absolute key and can't be avoided. Like, if someone's wanting to create a more abundant relationship with money, they have to get really, really real and completely honest, like no holds bar, take off all the masks and all the maybe avoidance patterns or fear or running from it, which is all totally okay to feel and really common, but they have to get really real with how their current relationship with money is, which absolutely begins in childhood. And like, I think the most important questions with this are first to, like, just sit with your bank accounts open and feel how you feel in your current relationship with money, because all the answers to it, the solutions, the more abundant relationship with money, if that's something someone wants to lean into, is actually already inside also. It's just that there, for most of us, are a lot of emotion and fear and patterns and beliefs that are in the relationship with money, but people generally don't like to feel this stuff. They don't like to be uncomfortable. They
No,
don't like
that's discomfort. Ugh, gross.
they don't like to feel fear, or even like for some of us it can be abuse and trauma that not only on a conscious level do they not want to feel, but that stuff's just like stored in the cells. It's stored in the body. And we even can be carrying, or we are carrying up to like 7 generations back worth of patterns, trauma, abuse, hiding, silence, unspoken, secret stuff. So we're speaking to really, really brave souls here. We're speaking to cycle breakers. We're speaking to souls that intentionally and purposely incarnated on the planet now to rearrange and change and blow up and overcome all of this that we're talking about. So that's my intro.
Yeah, awesome. I love it.
Yeah. So like talking about the childhood money patterns. So like one of my big ones, and I would say like my biggest mountain that I had to move or blast with dynamite through or hike right over the top of, or however I did it, and I'm still working on it, is in my family, you didn't talk about money. Like it just was something that obviously like dad was the main provider and he needed to be, and that was his role. And I think there's like a healthy level of pride there, and I get it. Like I understand where that pattern comes from on a healthy level, but also like I wasn't taught anything about money. I wasn't taught a healthy relationship with money. It wasn't even spoken of. So I don't think my parents intended it. I think I would have appreciated some more education around money, but it's something that I felt kind of like thrown to the wind to figure out on my own, which is what I did and what I have done. So personally, I had to get very uncomfortable in the realms emotionally with a lot of embarrassment, a lot of feelings of failure, which I still work through on a daily basis, a lot of shame and a lot of fear and a lot of avoidance, which I feel like are probably cornerstones that a lot of people could relate with in their relationship. Yeah, it's certain, like a lot of my clients do as well. So that's what I mean of like, it's not like the healthy relationship with money isn't possible or isn't available, because I see that as an extension of the soul, like the spiritual human being's actual real innate wealth inside spiritually. It's just that as human beings, we have these emotions and trauma and unspoken whatever things that get passed down generationally that's just like sitting in the body.
Yeah.
It's just sitting there, and maybe our grandparents or parents weren't on a path to address it head on. So a lot of us now, like I said, those of us that are like have incarnated in to be cycle breakers and to end these patterns and to really lead with love in every area of life as human beings, as parents, and in relationship with money, business. We're doing the work now, and that's okay.
Yeah. I love that. Now, I'm curious, you've kind of like outlined your 2 key areas of focus as energetic sovereignty and soulful wealth. And I think that I want to ask the question here because this is something that I hear people talk about quite a bit. And so I want to bring it up, is just this idea that money is actually energy and how those 2 concepts are really connected. And I think that's really confusing for a lot of people. And what does that mean? So can you tell us, what the fuck does that actually mean to say money is energy or energy is money and the 2 are connected? Can you elaborate a little bit on that and give us a little bit more clarity?
Yeah, well, everything is energy. Even, what we experience as the physical, like my physical body or my teacup or my computer, we have the experience of it being a physical thing because it's actually vibrating so slowly that we can experience it as what we call physical. It's still vibrating atoms.
Yeah.
And it's
at the root. Yeah. It's all energy at the root.
Yeah.
Everything in existence really is energy.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's like, when you look at physics at this level, vibrating, I don't know all the words, like vibrating, all that stuff. It's mostly empty space.
Yeah.
Like things only have the meaning that we give them.
Right.
People a lot of times undercut really how powerful they actually are as creators.
Mm-hmm.
So looking specifically at money as energy, well, again, even like my teacup has an energy field. It has an aura, and money has an aura. So it exists just like the human being exists as an energy field, and then you have the physical human self. Money too is an energy and then has its physical self. But most of the money on the planet is just digital numbers we see on the screen.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the author? He wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yep. And I own that book as well.
Oh yeah, I love that book. I think I have a copy somewhere behind me.
Yeah.
I just saw this amazing quote from him the other day. He wrote that money is actually just an idea.
Mm.
And I think that is true. And most of the money we experience, we don't actually hold in our hands as paper dollar bills. We experience it as a number on a screen.
Yeah.
With a dollar mark. So I feel like what is actually true about money as energy is that when it is possible to have a like spiritual energetic relationship with money. You can actually feel the energy of money before it comes into your physical life. And I think this is actually where, like they say, or some teachers say, and I think it's true also, that there's actually abundance around you all the time that's trying to come to you.
Yeah.
And I believe that's true. And when money is starting to enter someone's life, like if let's say they have an online business and they're growing their business and they're working to get sales, and maybe they're having sales calls and the people say yes, but then they ghost them or they back out of the call, which has happened to me before. Very
Yep.
normal.
Happened to me too.
Very normal in business.
Yep.
One way of looking at that is that the money was trying to come to the person, but they didn't feel safe enough yet in themselves. They didn't feel aligned enough yet with allowing themselves to receive the money payment.
Yeah.
So that's a really good example. And I feel like most business owners go through this and can relate to it. Is like you can actually feel the energy of money coming to you before it physically comes to you. Like I often will be, before I have like a money breakthrough in my business, where I have like a wave of sales come in, and I'm working so that it happens consistently.
Yeah.
But currently my business, I'll go through these trials and tribulations and all this inner energy work. And then I have this big emotional breakthrough, and then I'll get a big wave of money coming into the business. It's like, that's how it currently is. But I'll feel that like laying in bed the night before, I feel my nervous system heal. I feel something shift, and then I feel the energy of the money that's going to be coming in the next day before it comes in. That's the example I can give of like my personal experience with the energy of money.
Yeah.
But I like that because it's actually tangible and practical, and like that's my real life experience with money as energy. It's just like, the day that I met my husband, I felt our energies, and probably for long before that, but that day I felt our energies colliding, and then we met that night.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you think about the other person's energy on the flip side. Say your customers who are, because I've experienced this too, where, on both sides, personally myself, where I'm not feeling ready to trust. And it's more me as maybe the client in this scenario that I'm kind of trying to embody, not feeling like I'm trusting myself enough to let go of that money. How can we kind of mesh those things together so that our energies aren't conflicting?
This is actually why I have an audio training I share for free with people. Like, I'd be happy to share this with you and your listeners if you want. It's on the energetics of sales. So as you're sharing that example again of like, okay, we have two people that are aligned to work together. Like the coach client, there is an alignment. The client would absolutely have a transformation if they hired this coach. But I would say what has occurred, and like I had this happen last fall, the coach's nervous system is dysregulated and the potential client's nervous system is dysregulated when it comes to money. And I'm just looking at like my own personal experience when this happened once last fall. I think I just wasn't ready to receive it, to put it plainly, and my own nervous system was going into a pattern of still putting too much meaning on the $6,000.
Yeah.
I was making it mean a lot about me at that point. At this point, I had made a few $5,000 sales. That was going to be my first $6,000 sale. I had this super high about it. Like, oh, that means I made it, or this means
Yeah.
I think that's what I was doing. I think I was making it mean, no, this means I'm loved. And then I didn't hear from the client. I didn't hear from the client, and, just didn't, she never got back to me. Then I felt a super low of, oh no, I'm worthless again, or I'm not lovable, or I'm not being loved here. So I was making it mean a lot about me personally. And that's just a reflection of like some shit I was healing through in my own nervous system. And then my coach actually gave me some great advice that, well, Katie, it just means that $6,000 is coming to you. Again, that energy of that $6,000 wanted to come to me. It's just going to come through another person. Maybe that person comes back around, it comes through them, or it'll come through the next one. And it did actually. I made a 5K sale like a few days later.
Awesome.
So I feel like it's all about the nervous system. And the coach's nervous system needs to be able to have the capacity to feel all of their stuff. And they need to be able to hold space for everything that comes up within like scarcity, fear of investing in themselves, which actually underneath that is going to be about the client really being able to say yes to themselves, being able to say yes to
themselves,
their dreams and what they want to do.
Doesn't feel safe.
Yeah. So the coach needs to be able to like hold space for their own nervous system and for the client's nervous system.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I want to leap into another question that people, I don't know how it's very often asked, but I got to ask it again. Can you buy happiness? Can money buy happiness? What are your thoughts on this? Because, you're working in a space of abundance in all of these areas, and we know they're connected. So what do you think? Can money buy happiness?
I think money definitely adds to happiness because money creates more safety and more security for a person and helps them meet all of their needs and be well resourced so that they can relax and live their life in the way that they really, really want to. So I think it definitely adds. And I feel like the reason why that's such a hot button subject and why it's so important to talk about is people will often have this thing where they maybe have these deep-seated fears or negative feelings about money, which may or may not actually be about the money. It's usually not. But a lot of times people, again, because they're trying to deal with their own discomforts about money, they'll put up these questions of like, as though they have to choose between like a fulfilling family life or money. It's like, no, you got to have tons of money so that you can have a fulfilling family life. Or you really want to feel happy. Like it's kind of hard to feel happy if you're not knowing how rent's going to get paid every month.
That's very stressful, right?
It is
not a comfortable place to be. And while, of course, you can create happiness even in the mundane or even in struggle, you are powerful. So you can find those things to be grateful for and happy about. But money definitely helps you to create more safety, which helps you to regulate everything. And your perception of all of that is super important too, because what are you making money to mean actually influences in a big way the way that you would respond to that question about can money buy happiness? Because if you're making money to mean a lot of other things, then your answer might be very different, right?
It's such a big conversation because I've read like all the money books I can find, and I'll continue to, but you can have a very financially wealthy person who is completely miserable. You can have people who are like people that are broke, but then there's also people in the world who they don't even really think about money the same way that we might, and they might live in a state of life or have a lifestyle where we could see it as poverty, or we could see it as they're just subsisting or they're just surviving, but they're wildly happy. And these are like really spiritual people too. So I feel like what's most important is looking at it as, I think looking at the full picture like that is important. And I think looking at it on a belief system level is like, well, why would we need to choose? Of course money adds to happiness. adds to safety, which opens you up and you can be more of yourself. And just like, well, what do you want? What do you want to choose? And you do get to choose whatever you want. How do you want to create your life?
Yeah. And ultimately, we are all worthy of abundance. The only thing that's preventing us from experiencing the abundance that we're seeking, well, it's us, but it's because we're distracted seeking it in all of the things out there when the truth is it's in here. It's all in within us already. So I would love for you to share a little bit about what you're working on. What projects do you have? What offers do you have? Who are you working with? And what are you most excited about right now?
Amazing. Thank you. I'm currently focused on supporting spiritual women in business to heal all these things we've been talking about so that they can create their life entirely from inside them. And this is where I really love to talk about going quantum, because not only do we get to shift into wealth, prosperity, a healthy relationship with money, but what I love is activating people so that their soul's plans for their life come alive and they can stop getting in their own way with their human experiences or their human belief systems or their ancestry or all those levels like shame or fear or blocks. So that stuff is kind of so it doesn't matter anymore. They can just fully surrender into what's meant to come through them. That will also have the result of making them really happy, of giving them total inner fulfillment, of harmonizing their relationships, of creating financial wealth, high impact. So I like to do that in a number of ways, like free classes, free offers, writing. I do have a membership platform that I look at as like my entry level membership, and it's actually purposely at a lower price point so that spiritual women entrepreneurs who have really big missions in their souls, but who maybe have issues around being able to have the amount of money that they want or being able to receive or have money yet. Like they might still have a few things to work out or kinks to work out on that level. The membership platform is called Soul Success. So it's where I like to blend the spiritual with the practical when it comes to money and when it comes to wealth. So they can heal what needs to heal inside. They can birth their soul-led business, make it an empire, create wealth, create massive impact.
Yeah, amazing. People use the phrase quantum leap or quantum activation or different terms. Can you explain in your words what that kind of looks like and means to you, just in case anybody's like, what the fuck is a quantum leap?
Yeah, I love that because that word does get used a lot, probably sometimes accurately and sometimes maybe by people that don't really understand it. So the way that I see going quantum is actually surrendering to being your real self, because we're not actually just a physical human being here. We're cosmic, eternal beings incarnated here for a short little while as a human being. So it's like all like religions and spiritual paths, this is what they're actually trying to lead people to, into the truth, into union with God inside, into who they really truly actually are. So I see quantum as that like surrendering to who you truly are as a very, very fucking powerful being with all the powers to choose and create your reality in alignment with how your soul wants to, which is key. Because sometimes people will be afraid of surrendering to who they really are, to being the quantum being that they really are, because they have maybe a slightly off-tune relationship with desire. They think like, oh, well, if I just do what I want to do, then I'll just, nap and watch TV all day or something. But that's more
good.
Like,
yeah, that's lovely.
Good to chill out and rest, and I love that too. But that usually is more about nervous system healing and people needing to know it's okay to just be themselves, and that's a safe and okay thing to do. But if you're living life from soul desire, that's the same thing as what God and divine or universe, whatever words people like to use, to create through you. It's surrender to being a vessel to something that's much, much greater than you. And the way I see quantum leaping is just simply choosing to be more and more and more and more of yourself, which coming back to the conversation of like abundance is all around you. Yeah, it actually is you.
Yeah.
It's actually what is your actual energy field. So you just keep saying yes to it, yes to it, yes to it, again and again and again. And you surrender to being bigger and bigger and bigger.
And then every day life gets better and better and better as you lean more and more into just being you. And how simple is that? In our industry, as we both know, there's so many gurus out there preaching that you got to work hard, you got to like boss babe it up, and you got to get out there and hustle and grind. And I just don't subscribe to those, and I know you don't either, because really it's more about flow. And actually we end up blocking ourselves by putting all of that hustle energy out there. We actually stop it from flowing, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think I quit a long time ago prescribing to work just for the sake of work.
Yeah.
Or that hustle, flow, grind, like doing things that are hard or thinking that making money has to be hard.
Yeah.
Well, like when you're surrendered to being in your soul flow, then the doing and the action is a natural desire. It's something that you naturally just find yourself in the action of when you're in soul flow.
To me, that's really what manifestation is all about too, is being in that flow and then taking inspired action from a soul perspective or from a spirit perspective. And just in case anybody's like, spirit, soul, blah, 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 that's just the real you, the one that can see your thoughts, the one that can feel your emotions as like the independent observer saying like, okay, this is what my meat suit is doing. This is what my brain is saying. This is what the meat suit is feeling. But I'm separate from that and I can observe that. And actually, that's where that power comes from, knowing I don't have to just let those thoughts define me. I can choose something different. I don't have to let those emotions, send me off on a tangent. I can feel them, look at them, and then release them so that I don't have to keep carrying them, right? Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask you where people can find you, because you've given so much great information and the information about your offers and stuff. So where are people most likely to find you?
So on the social medias, I'm Katie Awake on Facebook and YouTube. I actually currently run a segment every Monday on soul success. That's all the levels of everything we've talked about, shifting from lack to wealth and success on all levels as a soul. I'm going to start running that on YouTube Mondays. And Instagram is Katie_awake.
Okay, we'll throw all that in the show notes as well, so people can just,
okay.
Yeah,
amazing.
So I want to wrap this up with one last question, leave our listeners with a tip that they can take forward. So what can you share with our listeners about how they can start creating more wealth and abundance, more happiness, more peace, more love, more joy, whatever it is they're seeking, all of it today?
That it's not something that you need to go and get outside of you. It's not something that you need to try to figure out so then you would have that happiness or love or money or prosperity or whatever it is, whatever the like carrot is that you try to chase.
Yeah.
To let go of trying to finding outside of you, because that just actually creates more time and creates more inner separation. The way is actually to surrender into who you actually are already inside, and just to continue opening more gateways into yourself internally, which is where you actually come in contact with your soul's blueprint for your life, for your sacred relationships, and the way I speak of this is like sacred relationship on all levels, sacred relationship with your person, with your dog, with money, with business. Yeah. The action steps flow from there, and you actually get to tune in to decide like what outcomes you want of that.
Yeah, and it's a kind of like an allowing, really, right? It's like being open and allowing things to flow so that you're not blocking yourself by doing all the things. You can simply just be and then allow things to flow from that state. And that's much better than the whole hustle and grind culture, if you ask me. So Thank you so much for coming on the show. I have loved this conversation. I think it's an important conversation, and especially women need to be having more conversations about money. So thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I hope that this is going to reach some other people who maybe had the same experience that you did, where talking about money just wasn't a thing. It kind of felt maybe a little bit taboo to talk about it. And so it just kind of didn't get addressed, but it's oh so important to be addressing it. So thank you so much for coming on the show and making that happen with me today.
Yay. Thank you, Christy. It just delights my heart to share. I hope it helps lots of people too. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's show. I trust you were inspired to take back your power and create your happy. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with women in your life who could use a little extra inspiration today. If you'd like to connect with myself and or today's guest, you can find those details in the show notes. We would love to hear from you. If you've got an inspiring story to share, you can also apply to be a guest on the show at createyourhappy.ca. As always, get out there, have fun, be you, and create your happy.